So we have 4 right now.
Yeah, we have 4. We're waiting on Ethel, Jordan, and Cornelius. And as you all know, Kelly will not be here. Chair Easton will not be here this evening.
How does it work as far as needing to head out? Like about 6:15, I think I may need to go. Does that change everything? I don't want to mess everything up.
No, the meeting will be recorded. So if any additional information that you need to submit scores, I can just send you the link to the recording so that you can score appropriately.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That'd be helpful.
You're welcome. Everyone is here, Stephen.
All right. Well, all right. If we've got everybody, then I will call us to order. Do we need to do anything special since I'm not an officer to make sure it's acceptable that I conduct the meeting?
We can have the committee conduct a vote on whether they approve or oppose to you conducting the meeting as an interim chair.
Perfect. Yeah. So does somebody else want to make a motion?
So moved.
A second.
This is Cornelius Graves.
Cornelius Smith, okay. Ethel second.
All right. Any discussion on that?
I have to do a roll call vote after as well.
If there's no discussion, then I guess we can go ahead and vote.
Committee member Brunson?
Present.
Are you in favor or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were on the roll. Yes, in favor.
Okay. Committee member Drew Gertzmeyer?
In favor, and I'm here.
Okay. Committee member Jordan Gwynn? Committee member Leah Metz?
Yes, in favor.
Okay, so that passes unanimously.
All right, then I will call us to order as the interim chair. Before we start, we do need to read the statement. Due to the Safer at Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the WBE Citizen Advisory Committee are participating virtually. All members will vote by roll call. A member will be recognized, at which time the member will state his or her vote. So first order of business is adopting the agenda and approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Everyone should have received those in advance of the meeting. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes. Sorry, this is Ethel.
This is Cassandra, second.
Any discussion on that? All right, there being no discussion, we can move to a vote.
Committee member Cassandra Brunson?
In favor.
Committee member Drew Gertzmeyer?
In favor.
Committee member Cornelius Graves?
In favor. Aye.
Committee member Jordan Gwynn? Committee member Stephen Hemrick?
In favor?
Committee member Leah Metz?
In favor.
Committee member Ethel Witt?
In favor.
So that passes.
So I think that just brings us to the only other agenda items that we have, which are good faith effort reviews. And so I will turn it over to Alex for the bar construction playground improvements group 2.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a few pre-construction good faith efforts to review, and then a post-construction good faith effort. And we will begin with bar construction's pre-construction good faith effort for group 2 of the playground improvements. And we're in an effort to just use our time a little bit more intentionally. We've moved to a different format in presenting the content of the good faith effort. So I've put all of the information needed by item in a PowerPoint and been really intentional and specific about what you need to be able to answer to provide an accurate, reasonable score. Please feel free to interrupt me to ask any questions as we go along. So for this project, the established MWBE goals were 6% for minority-owned firms and 6% for W-owned firms. The goals that were submitted by Bar Construction came in at 6% and at 2.7%. So beginning with letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid solicitation or pre-bid meeting scheduled by the city to inform MWBE firms of contracting, subcontracting, and supply opportunities, and to review contractor requirements of complying with the program? A representative from Bar Construction did attend the pre-bid meeting on August 19th at 1 p.m. So they'll receive 10 points for letter A. For letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media concerning subcontracting opportunities? Bar Construction used iSquareFoot, which is an online platform to advertise to firms. And in addition, they used an advertisement. They placed an advertisement in Greater Diversity newspaper on August 13th. And so for this one, they would get 10 points as opposed to the 15 because they used 2 platforms. I've included a screenshot of their advertisement that they included in their good faith effort. This is from Greater Diversity. Are there any questions about letter B? Okay. For letter C, did your company provide a written notice to a reasonable number of specific MWBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days before bids are due to allow them time to participate? They have to, for this letter, include at least a source list that has at least 3 minority firms on it. They also have to include a specific description of the work to be subcontracted, a location where the bid documents can be reviewed, a name of a representative from the company, a location, date, and a time. From their letter that they included, they said we sent invitations to bid on August 20th to subcontractors and suppliers certified by various municipal business programs and other state programs with appropriate trades for this project, requesting quotations. I've included screenshots that I've taken from their letter. So in their invitation to bid, the date was August 20th. And they include contact information for Walter Grayson, who has been heading up the estimating for this project. They've included information about how to access the plans and contact information and a phone number and a time that they need to submit their quotes, as well as a description of the work. So for letter C, they would receive full points. Are there any questions about letter C? For letter D, did you follow up initial solicitation of interest by contacting MWBE firms to determine with certainty whether the MWBE firms are interested? Please include a telephone log. They said that we returned all calls received from MWBE contractors and followed up as needed by offering use of our plans, providing information regarding where plans could be viewed, mailing and or faxing drawings and specs when possible, and answering any other questions. This is a screenshot of their call. You all may not be able to see it because of the size of the screenshot, but within what they submitted, you can see where they are handwriting what was the product of the conversation, whether they were the firm that they used was a GC and was it going to be bidding on the project, or whether or not they left a message, or whether or not they were not bidding on the project. And then I included the document was multiple pages, so I included screenshots of those pages for you. I'm sorry, went back too quickly. Were there any questions about letter D? They received full points for that one. Okay. For letter E, how did your company identify and select portions of work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of MWBE participation, including where appropriate, breaking down contracts into economically feasible units to facilitate MWBE participation? They need to provide a copy of documentation where this information was included, and this is a possible 15 points. They said we accepted quotations for specific portions of work regardless of size and utilized the lowest cost combination, effectively breaking down the total project down into feasible portions of work to facilitate MWBE participation. So I've included a screenshot here. For this project, these playground improvements are a combination of really kind of 4 different sites. So Brushy Fork is one by itself, and then in Winston Lake there are 3 playgrounds that are going in to the 3 spots in the park. So this screenshot is for Shelter 1 specifically, and then I've included the Shelters 3 and Shelters 4 and all of the other information that was included in their invitation to bid. And then the original subcontracting trades are at the bottom of that. Later on, when you get to their quote comparison form, you'll be able to see sort of the trades that they went with and the trades that they didn't. Are there any questions for letter D? They'll receive full points for letter D. Letter F, explain how you provided interested MWBE firms with equal access to specifications, plans, and requirements of the project, of the contract.
Alex, I don't want to interrupt you, but was that letter E you were talking about? They would get full points for E?
Yes, for letter E. I'm sorry, did I say D? I
thought I knew what you meant. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I apologize. For letter F, they said that as additional help, Bar Construction has plans, specifications, and requirements available for review by prospective minority and women-owned businesses in our office plan room. After reviewing them, we can provide these documents to you on a CD or paper copy prior to the bid day. Also, within their invitation to bid, they said in order to save you time and money in travel costs, Bar Construction has purchased a membership to isquarefoot.com, which is an invitation vehicle by which you are receiving this invitation today at no cost to you. You may access and review all plans and documents by going to this website after receiving your invitation in lieu of traveling to our office. You may also visit your local MWBE office. Okay, so for letter F, they would receive 10 points. Are there any questions about letter F? Letter G, how have you negotiated fairly with interested MWBE firms, not rejecting the MWBE as unqualified without sound reasons based on a thorough investigation of their capabilities? Essentially for this one, they need to include the subcontractor quote comparison form and provide us with the ability to see and understand their decision-making process for either going with an MWBE or no or not. And so I've included a screenshot of the entire document starting with this first section. So it looks like for grading, they received a quote from an MWBE and they used that quote. They only received one quote that was from an MWBE and they used that quote. They received in landscaping, they received quote from both the WBE and an MWBE, and they went with the WBE because the MBE did not have the complete scope. For utilities, they did not use an MWBE. For playground equipment, there are only specific firms that provide that. So, and that was chosen prior to the bid by the city. For site furnishings, they went with a WBE because they included a complete installation of the site furnishings, as opposed to what the other two firms did, which is not that. Are there any questions about this first section? Okay. So for surveying, they went with Crossroads Surveying Services. It's a WBE. They went with a WBE for silt, orange fence, and accessories. They chose an MWBE for the porta-john as well as a dumpster. They did not use an MWBE for concrete. They didn't actually get a quote based on this. And then neither for the concrete material, and then either for the fence, and then that's the total amount of MBE participation and the total amount of W participation. Now, this is different. The WBE participation is different from what they came in with on bid day. And then subsequently after bid day, they called me to let me know that they could now meet the 6% goal. But of course, that is, we don't score good faith efforts or make adjustments based on what they could do after the bid date. We do it based on what they turned in at the start of the date the bids were due. Are there any questions about the subcontractor quote comparison form?
So do you know where the difference came in on the W? What additional they were able to find?
I can tell you, I would have to look at their affidavit D, and I don't have it in front of me. But I could tell you that if you're, if I can just finish it and then I can look at it.
Yeah, sure. I was just curious.
Yeah. For letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWBE office: available minority community organizations, minority contractors groups, local, state, and federal minority business assistance offices, and other organizations that provide assistance in the recruitment and placement of MWBE firms. For this one, they need to utilize 2 agencies to receive full value. And they requested assistance from our office. And so they would receive 5 points. Are there any questions about letter H? Letter I, how did your company provide assistance to an otherwise qualified minority firms in need of equipment, loan capital, lines of credit, or joint pay agreements to secure loans, supplies, or letters of credit, including waiving credit that is ordinarily required? Did your company assist minority firms in obtaining the same unit pricing with the bidders' suppliers in order to help minority firms in establishing credit? And they can receive 10 points for offering, 10 points for implementation. They said we notified companies that joint pay agreements and opportunities to rent equipment from Bar Construction were available, and joint pay agreements, and the second screenshot is actually from their invitation to bid, and it says that joint pay agreements and the opportunity to rent equipment from Bar Construction is included in something that they offer. These are screenshots of, for this particular letter, they included a supplemental letter that said Bar Construction encourages and offers joint pay agreement program to MBEs and WBEs for any and all subcontractor work for Bar Construction. We included a copy of blank forms to be used by subcontractors and sample forms actually used on a job in 2018. So these are examples from, well, they actually included one example from 2020, and then they included an example from 2018 where they did a joint pay agreement. So for this letter, they would get the credit for offering and the credit for implementation, a total of 20 points. Are there any questions about letter I? Letter J, how does your company provide assistance in obtaining required bonding or insurance, or providing alternatives to bonding or insurance for subcontractors? They can provide evidence of implementation from previous projects in the last 5 years. And they can receive 10 points for offering and 15 points for implementation. They said that we assist subcontractors when requested in obtaining bonding or insurance coverage for any project. And then in their actual invitation to bid, they said if you need assistance with obtaining bonding, loan capital, lines of credit, insurance, or joint pay agreements, please contact us and we will review our needs and direct you to available agencies for assistance. This is evidence of an offer. And then they also included evidence of from their insurer that is actually was sent to the attention of Taisha for a previous project where it says that it is the general policy of Bar Construction with the consent of Bar's bonding company that Bar Construction requires bonds from subcontractors whose contract price to Bar Construction is in excess of $100,000. Subcontractors to Bar Construction with contract prices less than $100,000 are generally not required to post a subcontract bond to Bar Construction. This additional note says the joint pay agreement program that Bar Construction Company has implemented relieves subcontractors from any need to obtain bonding by Bar Construction Company Incorporated on subcontracts over $100,000. The joint pay agreement program alleviates risk to owner and general contractor and also enables MWBEs to obtain additional credit with vendors. Bar Construction Company's bonding company allows Bar Construction Company Incorporated not to bond the subcontractor if joint pay agreement program is being used. So there's an apparatus that exists for them to, as their policy, they don't bond subcontractors where the contract is less than 100, and then also if the subcontractor participates in their joint pay agreement program, then they don't need to be bonded, no matter if it's above 100,000 or not. So that's evidence of implementation. So they would receive the total possible 25 points for letter J. Are there any questions about that one? Letter K, did your company negotiate a joint venture or partnership arrangement with minority firms to increase opportunities for MWBE participation when possible? Bar Construction did not provide any evidence to support letter K, so they'll receive 0 points for letter K. For letter L, did your company provide quick pay agreements and policies to enable minority contractors and suppliers to meet cash flow demands? What procedures were initiated to fulfill this requirement, and how were the MWBE firms informed of this assistance? So within their letter to me, they said Bar Construction offers joint check agreements and quick pay agreements for MWBE businesses. In their invitation to bid, they said Bar Construction Company will modify our payment schedule to meet individual needs upon submission of a qualified invoice. At a minimum, Bar Construction will insert a quick pay clause in the subcontract, which allows for 2 billings per month in lieu of 1. And anything above getting paid one time a month that we consider quick pay. And they also have included their requirements for being able to get bi-weekly quick pay in terms of what a subcontractor will have to submit to them in order to do that. So that is evidence of both offering and implementation. So they'll receive the full 15 points for letter L. Are there any questions about letter L or this good faith effort in its entirety? Okay. I believe the contractor will be joining us so that you all can ask questions.
Yeah, and Stephen had a question about the affidavit D, I believe.
Right. I was going to look that while we're waiting. I was going to get.
Yeah, it would just be helpful to know because since we're supposed to score them based on what the affidavit D actually said, not their increased amount, as good as it is that they went back and found somebody.
Here, this is Taisha. May I add a comment?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I do want to just also add that bar construction, this is a typical practice of theirs. I'm not urging it or shaming it at all, but to come in after the bids are due with the goals established after the bids are open. So that may be a question you want to ask. I don't know if that's a reflection of just bids coming in quickly and they're not able to add it on bid day. But this is a very frequent habit of this particular contractor.
So you're saying this is something you see pretty regularly, that they come in on bid day having not met the goals, but then later in the project, they come back and have met the goal, or at least say they can meet the goal.
Typically they do meet the goal, and I wouldn't even say later in the project. I would say sooner, like once a contract was executed, they have what they need. In my opinion, it would be beneficial and a better use of everyone's time if they kind of gave that to us on bid day, because they know that eventually they're going to plan to meet the goals.
So Walter Grayson from Bar Construction will be joining us here within the next few minutes.
So, Stephen, within the first, like when they on their identification of minority participation form, they included Mid-South Irrigation and which is the women-owned business, and Rake Grading, and then subsequently in their subcontractor quote comparison form, they've added a number of WBEs.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be specific, they've added their site furnishings. They're using the WBE for site furnishings, for surveying, for silt, the orange fence and accessories, and then I think that's it.
Okay. So they added some scope to Mid-South, it looks like, and then picked up a surveyor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Mid-South, I think, stayed the same. Or were they using it? Yeah, I think they stayed the same.
They stay the same? Or it looks like Mid-South was originally just landscaping, but then they added Mid-South for
for site furnishings,
and then added a surveyor, and then also the silt fence for a different contractor.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Jakira, were you about to speak and move it on? Is the person waiting?
I was going to ask Alex if he could give Walter Grayson a call because I'm unable to reach him.
Okay.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good afternoon, Barton Construction's on the line.
Hello, Walter. This is Jakira, the MWBE program manager. So the committee has reviewed your good faith effort. Feel free to provide any context to your submission, and the committee will also ask you questions.
All right, you got Austin Ritchie here with Bar Construction, and Walter here, and Brian and Greg.
Okay,
So,
thank you all for attending.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. This is Stephen Hemrick. We just want to thank you for your time to come chat with us today. We had just a few questions. I think one of the clarifications we were looking for is it looked like after you had submitted the bid and the affidavit D, and between that time and when you submitted the good faith effort materials, that there was some additional WBE participation included. And so we were just wondering if you could provide us a little clarification on kind of timeline for how that happened and how you were able to pick up some of that additional participation in the interim period.
I'll speak in general. This is Greg, Vice President. Normally, if we don't, how that come about is probably scope clarifications. Is utilizing a team, knowing that we're trying to be participants. I don't know right offhand the WBE that was submitted, that was in addition to, because I didn't bid it. But normally in our 72-hour window that we have to do is our opportunity to clarify scopes of work, add some scope that we may have thought was not covered, but it's normally covering the gap in scopes on what we anticipate on bid day and actually having time to discuss and work something out with contractors.
Thanks. Yeah, that is kind of what I thought. Some negotiation happens after the fact. We're kind of looking for a little clarification on why, you weren't able to get things put together on bid day. Things happen, but, we end up seeing you guys a few times because similar situations arise. So we were just looking for a little clarification there, but thank you.
Are there any additional questions from the committee?
I have one, I believe. Let me take a look at this form. Letter H. What services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWBE office? Please provide a copy of this documentation. Contractor must utilize at least 2 agencies to receive full value. And it looks like Alex went over that and said that you all contact the office. Just curious, I don't know, have you done work for the city before through this whole system of bidding and coming up to the board and presenting and all that stuff?
We've done multiple projects over there. A lot of your parks we've been involved in. I'm presently building or renovating the public safety center downtown. So yes,
Yeah.
we are familiar with y'all,
with the process,
coordinator and that kind of stuff.
Okay. I don't know. Alex gave us some information, but there wasn't 2 organizations that have been utilized. Is there, some additional information you could provide to, since you do have some history of the process and over the years have worked with the city? I'm just curious as to why, maybe you don't have another resource for getting the information out to the community, the MWBE community.
we do, even though we may not touch them, we do utilize the high square foot, which we have multiple MBE and WBE people listed on that, which is built off of the systems that we're in contact with these people with.
Okay, I think we're looking more for local, state, and federal types of community organizations. I'm familiar with I square foot, but I mean, I don't know how you would identify which companies are MWBEs on that platform.
This is Stephen, and kind of piggybacking on Cassandra's point, I think what we're getting at here is that we're looking more for things like you didn't just reach out to the city of Winston-Salem's office, but may have reached out to someone like the UMCNC or even some of the state level organizations that are out there, you know, women's business centers, some of the civil rights offices that keep lists of hub certified businesses. And that's what we were looking for on that point, is if you had reached out to another one of those types of entities, and we just didn't see that. Even though there are some good state level and even some local trade organizations for the minority contractors.
Well, I guess the good thing on our end is I think we're meeting with the city of Winston tomorrow for minority participation. So maybe we will learn of more that we can tap into.
Covering some resources in which general contractors can reach out to MWBE vendors to advertise or solicit their participation on all city projects.
We did run the paper. That's right.
Yeah, we run I think it's the Greater Diversified ad for reaching out to MWBE. You know, we will reach out to Alex, you know, with the city, get his Excel spreadsheet of, you know, all trades involved for that specific project. Then what we do is we create a letter in-house soliciting bids, and then we take that spreadsheet that was given to us and basically do a mass email out to all of the subcontractors, MWBE subcontractors. So we reach out that way additionally, in addition to the Greater Diversified ad that we submit.
Are there any additional questions from the committee? Well, I would like to thank you all for attending the meeting this evening. You will receive a follow-up email from Alex Bohannon.
All right, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alex, I'll now turn it back over to you, Alex, to move on to the second good faith effort review if there are no questions from the committee.
Okay. All right, so this second one is for Magnolia, was submitted by Magnolia Construction for the Carl Russell Center renovations project. So the established MWBE goals for this project were 8% and 5%, and Magnolia came in at 0% and 13%. For letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid solicitation? Max Foster attended the pre-bid solicitation for Magnolia Construction on August 18th at 3 p.m. So they'll receive the full 10-point possible allocation for that one. For letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media concerning subcontracting opportunities? So they would receive 5 points for using the Blue Book, which is where you can advertise similarly to iSquareFoot, where you can advertise it online. So they'd receive the 5 points out of the possible 15-point allocation. For letter C, did your company provide written notice to a reasonable number of specific MWBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days before bids are due? They also need to provide evidence that they've sent it to at least 3 minority firms, a specific description of the work, location, where the bid documents can be viewed, name of a representative to contact, location, date, and time. This is their invitation to bid. You see at the top here, it was dated for August 11th, and bids were due, their due date for bids was August 25th, but their quotes are due on Wednesday, September 9th. They have a contact information, an email, and app box link for the plans and specifications. And they also have included a description of the work at the top, that first paragraph at the top here. So they would receive the full possible allocation for letter C. Are there any questions about this one? And this is their letter, who they sent the letter to. I tried to fit all the pages onto one slide. So this is, of course, very substantive. It meets the threshold to send it to at least 3 firms. For letter D, did you follow up initial solicitation by contacting MWBE firms to determine with certainty that they are interested? They needed to include a telephone log for this one. They did not include a telephone log per se, but they did include copies of a follow-up email that was sent to multiple subcontractors. So, for instance, at this one, there's a name at the top. His name is Brad, and he works for I think that's Triple P North Carolina Solutions, NC Solutions, and this is a follow-up email. And this was sent on August 21st, and in their the whole substantive good faith effort, and you can go back and review that. They included multiple letters that are similar, but just have been sent to different firms. So they included all of their follow-up letters in their good faith effort. So they'd receive 10 points. I think the allocation is 10 points. It's they'd receive the full allocation for this one. It's 10 points. For letter E, how did your company identify and select portions of work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of MWBE participation, including where appropriate, breaking down contracts into economically feasible units to facilitate MWBE participation? They need to provide, of course, a copy of the documentation where this was included. So they said that this is from their invitation. It said Magnolia Construction is requesting bids from MWBE firms on the above reference project. The project includes renovation of the Carl H. Russell Community Center. The community center building is an approximately 12,500 square foot building and is predominantly load-bearing masonry construction. Renovations will consist primarily of new paint and finishes, updated interior lighting, exterior landscaping, and pedestrian seating improvements, improved accessibility throughout, and security improvements. In their letter to me, when submitting their good faith effort, they said Magnolia Construction has broken down or combined elements of work into economically feasible units to facilitate MWBE participation. So here they would receive the full 15-point allocation. Are there any questions about letter E? That is a blank slide. Also, I've included a, I think that's from Bar Constructions. Okay, there we go. We're back on track. Letter F, explain how you provided interested MWBE firms with equal access to plan specifications and requirements of the contract. I've included a screenshot from the app box link that they've included, and everyone who received their invitation to bid has that access to that box, so they can click on that and they can view the plans that way. They would receive the full 10-point allocation for letter F. Letter G, how have you negotiated fairly with interested MWBE firms, not rejecting the firms as unqualified without sound reasons based on a thorough investigation of their capabilities? Here they need to include the subcontractor quote comparison form. So starting with the first section of this, they listed all of the firms that they originally reached out to and then followed up to, and then indicated whether or not they bid with them or sent them a quote. So for cleaning, they received a quote from one M firm, but they were not the low bidder, so they did not go with them. For landscaping, they received one quote from a W, but they were not the low bidder. For demolition, the same. For demolition site work, they received a quote, but they weren't the low bidder. Steel, that person did not bid, and for millwork, they weren't the low bidder. And then for glass, they didn't get a bid. And then for drywall, they got one bid, but it was not the lowest bidder. For flooring, they received a bid for that one, and they were not the lowest bidder. For paint, for the first one, they were not the lowest bidder, and then for the second one, they did not. They excluded items on the quote. And for gym equipment, they used a W-owned firm that they got two, and then went with AOA signs because they were the lowest. They didn't get a bid for plumbing, and they went with an M firm for plumbing. And then for HVAC, they did not get an MWBE bid. Are there any questions about their subcontractor quote comparison form? There might be another page. Yep. They went with a W-owned firm for bleachers, and they received multiple MWBE bids for electric, but didn't go with either of none of those because they were not the lowest bidder. And they went with, I don't think they went with Piedmont Fence for fencing. That may be a question to ask them about fencing.
So they did not include any information on the other bids to see what the difference between these M and WBE bids that are listed as not the low bidder, how those compared to the actual low bidder they used that was not an M or W, right?
Right. They on their subcontractor quote comparison form, they only included the bids from the non. From the WB, the MWBEs, not the non-MWBEs.
Okay, because I was getting ready to ask about the electrical, because I was going to ask you to go back a page to see if there was any others, but I think that answered the question. They did not include the non-MWBEs. So we wouldn't be able to compare anything on this, essentially, right?
So I can show you. So I can show you their, if you all would like to, I can show you all their subcontractor utilization form. That is something that they include with their bids when they submit on bid day. That has their the information of their non-MWBE subs. So if you all would like to see that, if that can provide additional context, I'd be happy to show you that one.
I don't want to prolong it. I love this new format that you're using. But if someone else is interested, of course, I just kind of like, for electrical, it would be good to see who they went with, what that number was, you know, if that's handy. But if not, like I said, it's not that critical right now.
Yeah, I think that it would be good to see and give it some context. I mean, that's why they're supposed to provide us a comparison form, and they didn't include all the information we needed on the form this time.
Sure. So it looks like, so this is actually, I thought you would benefit from seeing this because this is actually one of the most substantive subcontractor supplier utilization forms I've seen during my time with the city. It's full, all of the areas are full. So it seems like they've chosen for electrical, HVAC, lockers, painting, flooring, drywall, concrete, furniture, landscaping, cleaning, millwork, plumbing, partitions, glass, welding, the basketball scoreboard, and the blinds. Those are all non-MWBE firms, or at least non-hub certified MWBE firms. I can't tell you for sure whether or not they're minority or women owned, but at least they are not hub certified.
Could you maybe slide it over so we could see the difference in the bids?
Yeah, I could do that.
Sorry, I know I'm being a little high maintenance.
No, I completely understand. It's okay. And as a matter of fact, I will, just so you can see the entire thing, I will pull up their quote comparison form so that you can just look at them side by side as opposed to me having to switch back and forth from the slides. I'm going to try to get this side by side. So for cleaning, they ended up going with the Preferred Service LLC. But for that one, they didn't get any, the MWBs that they were looking at didn't bid that one. For they did receive one bid for cleaning, but that one was dawn till dusk, and that one was for $7,000, and the one that they went with was for $3,000. So there was a $4,000 savings for cleaning, with going with a non-hub certified firm. For landscaping, they received a quote from Carolina Greenscapes for $39,000. And then they received another quote from Engel & Son for $11,000. So that's almost a close to a $30,000 savings in the landscaping for, I was trying to find demolition over here. I don't see it here. So I think maybe they don't, maybe that's something that they're going to self-perform, because I don't see a demolition subcontractor over here. Neither do I see one for site work or steel. For millwork, they received a quote for $20,000, and the quote that they went with from their non-hub certified firm was $14,000. So it's a good savings there. For glass, they didn't receive an MWBE bid, so they went with a non-hub certified firm. Drywall, they got one bid for $15,000, but the quote that they went with was for $12,000. Yep. Flooring, they received an MWBE quote for $67,000. The one that they went with was $29,000. And for paint, they went with they didn't. That was for gym equipment. So for painting, they didn't go with MWBE because they received an incomplete quote for one, and the other one was not the lowest bidder. They received Do Me Painting for $30,000. So that was about a $4,000 savings. Gym equipment, they went with the MWBE.
Sorry,
they did.
Alex, I'm sorry. What was the amount again, the savings on that last one?
For painting, it was about a $4,000 savings.
4, okay, I almost thought you said 40, okay.
And then for plumbing and gym equipment both, they went with the MWBEs. For HVAC, they didn't receive a quote from an MWBE, so they went with a non hub certified firm. So for electrical, all of these quotes, one is for the MWBEs, one is for 86, one is for 96, one is for 68, and one is for 141,000. All of those were not low. The lowest bidder that they went with, which was the non-hub certified firm, was for 57,000. And so at the very least, the lowest bid that I see is 68. So that's about $11,000 in savings. If you just look at the next lowest quote that they received from the MWBE. They went with a WBE firm for the bleachers. And then for fencing, although they didn't indicate that they didn't go with this one, they didn't, I don't see fencing on here. So it looks like they just didn't highlight them. They did go with Piedmont Fence for fencing.
Thanks, Alex. I think that was helpful to see the difference because it gives us a better idea when we're trying to figure out, did they negotiate with people fairly? You know, was it they went with a non-W or non-M over $500, or did they do it over $11,000 like they did in a lot of cases here? So I think that makes a big difference. At least for me, it does.
You know, that was very helpful. Thank you. But one thing that raises a red flag with me is the amounts, like the drastic amounts, like the $30,000 savings between one bid and another. Okay, in your experience, and anyone with the city can answer, like, do you ever see those invoices when they come in? Are they really that low at the end of the day when everything is submitted, or is someone hooking them up? Is it their brother? I'd hate to sound like I don't trust someone, but how can one company do something for let's say 5,000, and the other company, it will cost them 35,000 to do it. It just raises questions like, I don't know.
Cassandra, I would say that a lot of the times that some of the non-MWBE firms have the ability, or via their workforce or access to capital and things of that nature, where they're able to bid at a lower price than some of the MWBE firms that you see bidding at a higher price.
Yeah, I know that to be true also, but that one, I think it was for landscaping, was like a $30,000 difference. I don't know, maybe the MWBE had to rent equipment and the other people own equipment.
Correct. So some of those things are taken into consideration, yet when they do submit higher than some of the non-MWBEs. Alex, can you go back to that form, please?
And I'll also add really quickly that it also depends on if the quotes are apples to apples. So sometimes, depending on how well someone may be able to read the specifications, or maybe they're not that good at reading all the specifications, you can see a significant variance in the quotes that you receive.
Right.
Does that answer your question, Cassandra?
It does, and I just think that maybe there can be a little more work on our behalf in if we are identifying, some things like that. Can we reach out to them and because I don't know if they have the opportunity to see where they fell in line with the bidding. Like you were $30,000 above, everyone else. And they're going to keep trying and trying, and they're not getting anywhere, not getting the bids, because they don't understand that they're coming in that much higher, and they don't understand if they're not reading the specifications correctly, or if they have some other resources like the
Right. Yeah, I definitely welcome that recommendation. But the subcontractors do have the ability to, which you see in the solicitation letter, to reach out to the general contractors to gain a better understanding of the project specifications so that they can better, bid the project as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was
I do see that. Yeah, I do see that as an area of opportunity for us maybe, or to foster those relationships between the MWB subcontractors with the general contractors, so that they can just get a better understanding of how the bidding process works in general.
For sure. Thank you. That does answer my question.
Okay.
Alex, question for you. On the PowerPoint under plumbing, it's highlighted and it shows on the thing that it's it shows that it's a different group than what they put down on their form is actually utilizing, but on here it says bid used, and that would be a minority firm. So is the subcontractor utilization form correct, or is the see, it's on there. Well, now they have it as a that Piedmont Performance Plumbing. They have it marked as WF there, but then on the other form it's marked as H. On your PowerPoint, it's marked as H.
Wait, which one? I'm sorry.
Under plumbing, Piedmont Performance Plumbing. Or is it just too small?
Under plumbing.
Yep, it says
yes,
H.
Piedmont Performance Plumbing. It says bid used, and then under here, they have it. They have it under plumbing here.
But they have it marked as a women-owned firm, and over here they have it marked as H. So is
they're technically it's just an error on their part. That company is a Hispanic-owned female, but she can't count in both, so she would count towards the W.
Oh, so Hispanic women count as women-owned and not minority.
sorry, I think I said that backwards. Hvac Performance Plumbing is a Hispanic woman-owned firm.
I verified their hub status, and they are a Hispanic-owned firm, so they would contribute to the MBE firm goal.
So then that would change their percentage. At the beginning, it said it was at 0%.
Correct.
And so that would, I'm not sure how that would change it, but.
That would change it.
It would make one go down and the other one go up.
Correct. We'll send out the adjusted goals of what they should be based upon that change in the minority category when Alex calculates the different in percentages.
Okay, cool.
Are there any additional questions about the quote comparison or the subcontractor supplier utilization form? For letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWBE office? Available minority community organizations, contractor groups, state, local, and federal minority business assistance offices, and other organizations that provide assistance in the recruitment and placement of MWBE firms. They did not claim credit for this item. For letter I, how did your company provide assistance to an otherwise qualified minority firms in need of equipment, loan, capital, lines of credit, or joint pay agreements to secure loans, supplies, or letters of credit, including waiving credit that is ordinarily required? They need to, they get 10 points for offering and 10 points for implementation. They indicated in their invitation to bid, if you need assistance with obtaining bonding, loan capital, lines of credit, insurance, or joint pay agreements, please contact us and we will review your needs and direct you to available agencies for assistance. They say we pay twice monthly on submission of qualified invoices, but this is for, that last sentence would address quick pay, not joint pay. So here they would receive 10 points for offering. For letter J, how did your company provide assistance in obtaining required bonding or insurance or providing alternatives to bonding or insurance? I included that same statement. So they would get 10 points for offering and no points for implementation. So a total of 10 points for letter J. For letter K, did your company negotiate a joint venture or partnership arrangement with minority firms to increase opportunities for minority participation when possible? They did not provide any evidence to support any point allocation for letter K. For letter L, did your company provide quick pay agreements and policies to enable minority contractors and suppliers to meet cash flow demands? What procedures were initiated to fulfill this requirement, and how were they informed of this assistance? So within their invitation to bid, they offered, they stated that they already as a policy pay to pay bi-monthly, I think twice a month. Let me just go back. We pay twice monthly on submission of qualified invoices. So that's what they said there. So that's, of course, an offer. And then they included multiple examples of invoices that they've received for previous projects. So this one is dated for 4/15, and the date of the check was was April 24th. So that was 9 days after they received the invoice. And then they included an additional one that where the invoice was dated for April 20th, and they issued a check on May 8th. And then I included just one more for reference. So this invoice date is May 15th, and they issued a check on May 22nd. Are there any questions about letter L?
Hey, Alex, just a question back on E. Okay,
Yes.
so that was included then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're very welcome. I think Magnolia Construction is going to join us as well.
Hey, Alex, while we're waiting on the contractor, real quick, did we have evidence of implementation for letter L?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, Monette Cook with Magnolia Construction will be joining here within the next few minutes. Hello, everyone. So the committee has reviewed your good faith effort submission for the Carl Russell's renovations. So feel free to give any context to your submission, and the committee will also ask you all some questions.
Okay. We'll provide a summary of what we get. Yes. You start with the bidding. Like, okay, if you have already looked over the subcontractor quote comparison, where we reached out to different minority groups, and we put explanation on there, but we did not put the lowest bidder on there. So I have gone in and put that price in there on each one. So if you had any follow-up questions on those.
So did anyone, if I hear you correctly, you were asking if the committee had any follow-up questions regarding the subcontractor comparison quote form?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey there, this is Leah. Not really a question on the form per se, other than, and one of our other committee members brought this to the point that, between some of the bids, there's like $30,000 to $40,000 gaps and differences in those bids. And what would you say that is contributing to that at this point between the minority firms or the women-owned firms and then the lowest bid?
With the fact that some of the subcontractors might be doing 2 or 3 trades in there, and some of them, like if you look under heritage flooring, that was not the low bidder. We went with Southern Flooring. They were not the low bidder. I mean, and it was just the flooring.
Yeah, the variance you're seeing in the bids right now are due to the economics of the time. You got some people that are very hungry and some people that are not. And the people that don't have work right now, you can see in their bids that they're really knocking the bottom out of stuff right now. And the people I would assume that have either a moderate amount of work or, more than what most have are submitting, keeping the pricing more in line with what it was back in February. But you are seeing a lot of people starting to come around and really putting low numbers on things now. I would say that's the biggest variance.
So knowing that there's a minority and a women-owned percentage that you need to meet as subcontractor, do you go back and try and negotiate with any of these, with either the minority or the women-owned groups to try and see if you can get that bid any lower, or you just talk it out?
We normally don't do that because that's actually called bid rigging, and to go back and to renegotiate after the fact is not really an honest business practice. I mean, in all honesty, we've made concessions to some of the minorities that we actually took that weren't the lowest bidder that we used to try to increase our percentage a little bit.
And sometimes we have 2 people working on getting the estimator. We get quotes on 2 different computers. On a job this size, we probably brought in 100 to 125 quotes. Plus, that same day, we had 2 other jobs bidding at the exact same time. And so sometimes people do not send in their quotes until an hour before they need to get it put on paper. So sometimes time frames, there's no time to negotiate.
And again, if you're asking for low bid, to go back and renegotiate with somebody during the bid process, when I went to school, they called that bid rigging, and we don't really, it's not a happy practice, I wouldn't think, because if any of your other subcontractors that are giving you these low numbers come back and find out that's what you're doing, they're not as apt to give you the low numbers or not apt to even bid you on such things as this.
Okay.
But that's why when we decide to bid on a project, that's why we reach out to minority organizations. We're a minority organization. We reach out from our master list. We reach out to Blue We tried.
That was a question I had too for y'all, because my name's Matt Foster. I'm one of the owners here at Magnolia Construction. Being that we are a certified minority, and from what I understand, that not even like our general conditions we can use on this as part of the minority percentage of the project. And that I don't really understand, because from what I read through the spec book, it's not asking for subcontractor participation in minority, it's minority participation for the totality of the job.
Hello, this is Jakira Westbrook. I'm the Business Inclusion Manager. So when the MWBE, to what you're speaking of, you all not being able to utilize your self-performance on a project, that goes back to the state statute and stating that general contractors have to seek participation from other MWBE firms to meet that verifiable goal.
We did. We're not asking to. We did use other minorities that would not be as a part of our number in self-perform things. I mean, like my general conditions, my superintendent, all that. Just asking. I mean, I'm just wanting to know so that we know for future what, since we are registered with the state and with the city of Winston-Salem. So, I mean, why are we registered if if that's not an option for us to use or to participate in?
It's so that you will be able to be utilized if you were as a subcontractor on other projects, but to the state statute, it doesn't allow general contractors self-performance to be utilized to contribute to the MWBE participation goal. So it's not something that the city has implemented, but it's a policy from the state of North Carolina.
And before we get far away from Leah's question, Matt, I want to respect your response if you have one to Jakira about your question, but I do want to jump back to Leah's original concern.
Okay.
So we were looking at the disparity between the amounts for some of the bids. I think one that raised the red flag was the landscaping. I don't have I can pull the documents up, but you may know this off the top of your head, but there was a $30,000 difference from the non-MWBE to the WBE, MWBE. And I think what Leah was trying to say was, do you recognize any issues? And from what I'm understanding, you're saying that during this time of the pandemic, people have been kind of messing with the numbers, inflating things because of the crises that they're in?
Before the pandemic, the economy was going really good. Construction was probably at an all-time high that it's ever been at, especially with commercial construction. And I'm not saying things were inflated, it's just, it's the supply and demand. There was a very, the supply of construction people was limited and the demand was super high, so the pricing was higher. And some people haven't done as well during this pandemic period because they might have, a lot of their eggs in their basket in healthcare or something like that totally shut down. And so they're standing around with a whole bunch of people with nothing to do. And, they're trying to get work even if they're taking it. I mean, I know some guys that are taking work at a loss just to keep their people busy so they don't leave because, we're all hoping, by the beginning of 2021 that things are going to pick back up and it's going to, turn back in a little bit. But, I mean, that kind of stuff's going on. I mean, to be honest with you, we took this project with less overhead than we would normally would have in a different type of setting, economic setting.
Well, okay, so I understand what you're saying, but as my responsibility on the board, one of those is that we look at all of your efforts and make sure that, in good faith that you try to get the work out, the message out, the communication out. And if we are seeing $30,000 disparities, then from, you know, MWBE firm to a non-MWBE firm, then what can we identify? I'm just trying to identify like solid, tangible things that are causing one firm to be able to bid at, let's say, 5,000, and then the other one has to bid at 35,000. So within that realm of knowledge and information, as someone, as a general contractor, you have more access to capital in many cases, and we've seen that you've done some of those things with the quick pays and things like that. So are you also utilizing some of those, or at the end of this day, will you be able to, on future bidding opportunities and projects, to say, hey, they came in at 30,000, these people came in at 5,000, did they get the communication that we can help them, you know, with access to equipment, for instance? Maybe their bid came in at 30,000 because they have to rent equipment for landscaping. Maybe the other company came in at 3,000 because they own the equipment. So there are lots of ways to utilize the MWBEs if efforts are put in the right places. So that's what I wanted you to get out of that.
Okay, in the same note, I would like to point out that if you noticed on the cleaning subcontractors, we had a lot of them did not even bid it. So that tells us, when we reached out, that tells us that they're busy with other projects. If they didn't even want to look at it or bid it.
And with the landscaping, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but like my dad was trying to point, you know, when we're running the bid during the day, when somebody sends us a bid, we read the scope. If the scope matches up to what's on the drawings, I mean, we have to take it for face value. I mean,
I use that.
The subcontractors don't send their bids in until 2 or 3 hours before the bid. I have a hard time calling people back and trying to, you know, set their bid right for them.
Well, I use that as an example. I don't have, I mean, I can pull it up, but there was a couple in there where the amounts were drastically different. So I use the landscaping as an example. I don't want to harbor on that one, but
for like helping out the minorities, we do offer quick pay. I mean, we'll do joint checks with people, and we will do pay that day. If they've completed the work, they show up with the paperwork, and they need a check that day, we will issue a check that day. We've done that. We've documented that in the material that she sent y'all. I mean,
we saw that.
How much better you can do than that?
We saw that. Thank you.
And Cassandra, I do see on the landscaping, Carolina Greenscapes came in at $39,755, but Engel and Son came in at $11,962.
So that's the $30,000 difference she's talking about.
Yes.
And Cassandra, one more point on that. Some of these contractors, especially on a job this size, the scope is all over the place. Some people will pick up more, some people will pick up less, and it turns into a bit of like building a puzzle, getting a contractor to do this amount and a contractor to do this amount. So while that number might be significantly higher, they could also have much more scope, but that scope is picked up in our site contractor's bid who's doing the concrete, or something of that nature, to where the bid, it's magnified how big the gap is because the scopes are a little bit different.
Now that makes sense, and that was something that would clear up in my mind where the disparity came from.
You got the bids right there.
Yes.
You got them in the order of division.
Yes. And I know with the bid opening on this, I would say that of all of us that were there on the electric alone, Jay Britton Moore, I think 90% of us used them on that. But that electrical price, the one we used, $57,000, we had ranges from minorities going from $86,000 to $141,000. But the electrical on this was not that complex.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the electrical especially falls back to people that are busy and people that aren't.
Yeah.
Well, if they broke up the scope, that explains why there would be such a drastic change in the numbers, why they're jumping around over the places. But the bottom line is that I know you offer a lot, like the quick pays and things like that, but that information is getting out, and that they're, if it isn't a situation where they're breaking up the scope and, the MWBE might be, having to not access the capital or doesn't have access to equipment, that, just make an effort to try to gauge that and figure that out,
Yeah, we'll certainly help with that as much as we can going forward and bids.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And another thing on this project was you have a lot of specialized equipment. So in the spec book, there were only 2 preferred people, per se, talking about the basketball or the canopies. There were like only 2 references to that. So we kind of had to go on the specialized equipment. You don't even have a whole lot of companies that are even doing it, much less a larger pool to choose from. You don't have a whole lot of minority companies doing canopies, per se, this specialized, or basketball.
And then we should pick it up in other places.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional questions for Magnolia Construction? With being no more questions, I would like to thank you all for this meeting this evening. Alex Bohannon will follow up with you all via email.
Great,
sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you got it.
Are there any additional questions about Magnolia Construction's good faith effort?
Just a question on their MWBE. Which of the, are they a Black-owned business? Is that?
No, they're a W. You're talking about which one Magnolia is, or
yes,
they're a W.
They're a women-owned business.
Yes.
Okay, so they were saying minority, but it's actually a women-owned business.
Yeah, it's in the wife's name. The business is in the wife's name.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, when you speak to minority category, females fall under minority category, but when MBEs and WBEs are defined, white females get put in the WBE category. That clarifies it a little better.
Right.
Okay.
But, and to just add some additional context, so to the earlier point when we were discussing one of their subcontractors, if you have an intersected identity, so if you are a Black woman or a Hispanic woman owned business, you would fall under the minority category, right? So what we typically see is when you apply for HUB certification, they usually, you would choose the M category if you identify as a minority, no matter if you are a woman or not, if that makes sense.
Yes. What about disabled, where does a disabled business owner fall under? Are they considered minority or women owned?
MBEs.
They're considered an M.
They would be M. And then disadvantaged?
Everything, yes, falls under MBEs. The only group of people that can contribute or can categorize themselves as WBEs are white females.
Okay, and so everybody else is put on the M side?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And just to their point earlier about them questioning why, with them being a hub certified firm, why their participation does not contribute to the MWBE participation goal, not only about statute, but our program is a subcontracting program. So we require that the established goals, that contractors meet said goals without their self-performance contributing to the participation goal.
And historically, has this contracting company, have they won bids in the past? Have they done work for the city previously?
They have done work previously, but it's been a while. They don't have any other active projects open, and their previous good faith effort was not successful. They bid on the Bryce A. Stewart renovations project, and you all reviewed their good faith effort and found it not sufficient.
I thought I saw that name before, yeah. Okay.
But just for everyone, with the adjustment of that Hispanic-owned firm to the M category, the calculations I have are 4.7% M and 11.01% W. So those are what the adjusted percentages would be, accounting for the Hispanic-owned firm in the M category. And the goals for this project were 8 and 5.
And they came in 0 and 13, or?
So with the adjusted, originally, because they indicated that one of the firms was a W-owned firm, but they're actually a Hispanic-owned firm. So I moved them over. They would be moved over to the M category.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No, it's changed. Okay. Gotcha.
Alrighty. So if there are no additional questions, we will move on to our last pre-construction good faith effort, which is for the Long Creek Park project. And this was submitted by Garanco. So for this For this project, the established MWBE goals were 18% and 11%, and those goals that were submitted were 5.2% and 12.3%. For letter A, did a representative of your company attend the pre-bid? Garanco did not attend the pre-bid meeting, so they will not receive the 10 points for attending the pre-bid. For letter B, did your company advertise in general circulation, trade association, or minority-focused media? They would receive 5 points towards towards this item because they used our square foot to advertise. Are there any questions about letter B?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you say they received 5 points?
Yes, ma'am. They would receive 5 points out of the 15 total. So for letter C, did your company provide written notice to a reasonable number of specific MWBE firms that their interest in the contract is being solicited at least 10 days prior, 10 days before bids are due? It has to be 3 or more firms, a specific description of the work and location, and contact information, date and time. So this is a screenshot from their invitation to bid. It was sent on May 25th, and bids were due June the 3rd. And it has the contact information, Adam Stanley, from their company. This is a screenshot from that same invitation that has a specific description of the work and a link to view the plans for the project. Are there any questions about letter C?
You said the time difference was how long? They did May 25th and that's reviewed June 3rd.
Yes.
Okay. So just so I'm not doing math in my head, did they get that in time?
No. So Monday, this was sent on the 25th, and then I think May has, I'm missing, this May have 31 days.
Yeah, so they were only like 8 or 9 days.
Yeah, so they were 9 days as opposed to the 10. But actually, those were, that I believe that was their bid due date. And not the actual project. The actual bid due date was June 18th.
Okay. So technically, it was 10 days before bids were actually due, but they had imposed an earlier deadline, so they had more time. Okay.
Are there any questions for letter C? And then this is, I just included some screenshots from the list that they included from iSquareFoot that just is the list of the firms that they've reached out to about subcontracting on this project. The highlighted portions are the ones who are Hub certified. So they included a lot of them. I didn't include all of them in the PowerPoint for time purposes. There's just some additional ones there. Are there any questions, additional questions about these? Okay. Letter D, did you follow up your initial solicitation of interest by contacting WBE firms? So they sent this on June the 2nd. And they indicated that they followed up with emails and phone calls, and they also printed plans for pickup at their office for A&R masonry and double mountain grading at their request. They've indicated here in their message, so the original, I think the original bid date was supposed to be earlier, and then they moved it, as indicated here in this letter. This follow-up letter. So they would receive the full 10 points additionally with the log that they've included here. They have the time that the message was sent, the email information, all of that. Are there any questions about letter D? They also sent an additional follow-up on Friday, June the 12th. So I just wanted to include that so you all would have it. Letter E, how did your company identify select portions of work to be performed by MWBE firms in order to increase the likelihood of MWBE participation? So here they said that trades with high material/equipment costs that may limit MWBE firms from participating were broken out and offered as labor-only bids. This allowed for multiple MWBE bids. Additionally, within their description of the work, they were very specific, and I've included that screenshot in there that just kind of goes over the requirements from the project and what they're doing in terms of the structures. And I think here there's supposed to be a pool house and then a shelter that they're building. And then this is just an additional screenshot from their invitation to bid that has the trades broken out. Are there any questions about letter E? Letter F, explain how you provided interested MWBE firms with equal access to specifications, plans, and requirements of the contract. So here, they said that they sent out plans via internet and offered plans at their office for review. And they said that they printed out plans for MWBs to review. Additionally, I just put the screenshot in here from the iSquareFoot, the
the I-square-foot page because it has a link for people to click to view the plans in the project. Are there any questions about letter F? Letter G, how have you negotiated fairly? This is where they need to include the subcontractor quote comparison form. They did not include a subcontractor quote comparison form, but they did include the quotes from all of the firms that they received quotes for, so that you could have a comparison. So what they said was, we've negotiated fairly with all MWE firms and used their bids that were deemed low bidder. The landscaping portion of the project was negotiated with T&T Farms. Though they were not low bidder originally, we are also in the process of negotiating the potential of them providing the grass pay portion of the project. The bids not deemed low from MWB firms are attached with corresponding low bid. So here for landscaping, there were 2 bids that they included. One was from T&T Farms and one was from Engel & Son. So for Engel & Son, they included, everything in their bid, based on what it looks like, which was totaled a lot of money. The grass paving portion was $96,000 by itself. When you added all the other pieces together that weren't the grass paving portion, still that was significant, but they ended up going with T&T Farms. And as they said in their letter, they're negotiating the grass paved portion with them. For concrete, they received 2 bids as well. One from PCM Construction, who is a Hispanic-owned business, and then from Johnny Turney Construction. This one is for the one from Johnny Turney is the low bid at $42,000, and PCM Construction's the first line item is $39,000 by itself, and the second one is $35,000, and then the pool house column footings are $26,000. So of course that's a significant change, a significant difference in those bids. For the plumbing and HVAC, they received, I believe it was, it's 2 bids. One was from the MWBE. This is the HVAC estimate was $23,000, and the plumbing estimate was $184,000. For KHAM, everything was $88,000. So that's a little over $100,000 in savings between the two quotes. For electrical, they have All Systems Restored also bid that as well, and Ogburn Electrical Company bid the electrical portion. So they went with Ogburn, but they took out the empty conduits for electrical service to reduce the amount of the quote. And I don't think either of these, so they went with the non-hub certified firm because of the obvious difference. The difference is over $200,000. All Systems Restored's quote is over $200,000, and Ogburn Electrical is now close to $100,000. Are there any questions about letter G? Letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's WBE office? They did not claim any points with this item, so they received 0. They would receive 0. For letter I, this letter addresses assistance for equipment, loan, capital, lines of credit, joint pay agreements, and they get 10 points for offering, 10 points for implementation. They say we do provide equipment as necessary to allow MWBE participation. We also work with subcontractors on joint check agreements, and they've included examples of past contract joint check agreements. And they offered it in their invitation. And then here is a sample, is a screenshot from a sample a joint pay agreement that they had with on a previous project they were doing with A&R Custom Masonry. Are there any questions about letter I? So they would receive points for both offering and implementation for letter I.
I'm sorry to make you do this, Alex, but could you go back to H or just remind me what they had submitted on that one?
0. They get 0 points. For letter J, this one concerns bonding and insurance, and they can receive 10 points for offering or 15 points for implementation. And they said that we did not require a bond from any of our subcontractors bidding on this project, and we will not request bonds for work. This was noted on our invitation to bid, and I've included that screenshot as well. So for this one, when they don't offer it, when they don't require it at all, they get evidence for both offering and implementation, because the implementation piece comes from the fact that they don't require it. So it is an alleviation of a burden off of the NWBEs, which is sort of what we're looking for, the sort of the impetus of the item in the first place. Are there any questions about letter J? For letter K, this concerns joint ventures. They did not claim credit for this item, so they would receive 0 points for letter K. Letter L, this item concerns quick pay. They can receive 5 points for offering and 10 points for implementation. They said we do provide a quick pay agreement, 2-week pay, to assist subcontractors that may not be able to participate otherwise or deemed to be high labor cost trades. Please see attached sample contract and current 2-week pay schedule. This is noted in our invitation to bid. They put evidence, they had evidence of offering in their invitation to bid, as noted in that screenshot below the first one. And then here is their current quick pay schedule, which is evidence of implementation. It's just, so it is something that they automatically incorporate and do. Are there any questions for letter L? So they'd receive the full point allocation, the full possible point allocation for letter L. Any questions? Okay. And then this is a example of a one that they've done in the past. This is with A&R Custom Masonry. It's a example quick 2-week pay, quick pay agreement.
So Alex, not a question on L, but can you go back to the first slide and the percentages? Okay. And are they a MWB?
No, Grantco is not.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick Stanley with Grantco will be joining the meeting here shortly.
Hi, yes, this is Nick Stanley with
Hello, Nick, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me, Nick?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So as I stated on the phone, the committee has reviewed your good faith effort submission. So feel free to provide any context to that submission, and the committee will also ask you any questions.
Okay. Well, the submission for this was actually done back in June. I guess this has been a long time coming. And in the process of just continually working on the project, at the time we were, as in regards to the other bidders, we were fairly high on our minority participation. I think we were second in the, had the most participation among women and second overall among minorities. But again, in working on the bid for the last few months, or the project, it looks like we're now going to be able to meet the project goals for 18% and 11%. But we actually probably will exceed that as far as women participation goes. But that provides a little bit of context into this one. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Hey, this is Leah. You're saying that your minority participation, have you gotten some other bids, or what is it that's making that your percentage more meet the requirement?
Well, from bid day, there was some changes, I guess, in the scope of work of some of the contractors that we had originally submitted on bid day. Had a few minority bids, I guess, on bid day that were not qualified for hub certification, but are in the process of getting those subcontractors certified, helping them out with that. And there were maybe one or two small items where we did not have bids on bid day that will end up being traded out with a minority subcontractor.
Thanks, and thank you for helping get people certified.
You're welcome.
Absolutely, thank you. This is Cassandra. One quick question. Letter H, what services were used from the City of Winston-Salem's MWBE office? Contractor must utilize at least 2 agencies to receive full value. And here we did not have anything documented. Would you like to kind of give an explanation about that? I'm just curious.
Well, honestly, this was one of our first projects bidding for the City of Winston in a while. This one, we went through this process a while ago with the Bethania Park project, but this project actually bid before the Bethania Park project, and was not aware of some of the services that were offered. I know I'm actually registered for a class tomorrow with the MWBE program down there to take a webinar class tomorrow. So some services weren't really aware of what was offered. That would be, I guess, something we've improved upon over the last short while, realizing that what was offered.
Great. I think you would get something out of the class tomorrow. I think with this being an opportunity, you have something to look forward to picking up some additional information so that, in the future, you could address that or utilize those, that community better.
Right.
Mhm.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Stanley? Well, Nick, I would like to thank you for joining the meeting this evening. You will receive a follow-up email from Alex Bohannon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And then the next item on the agenda is the post-construction good faith effort review from WC Construction Company.
Okay. So for it looks like I neglected to put the project name on this one, but this is a post-construction good faith effort that was submitted by WC Construction for the playground improvements project for 14th Street, Park Greenway, and Sprague Park. This is a little bit different than our normal evaluation process. So how it will work is after you've all reviewed the materials that I have here, and you have an opportunity to ask the contractor questions, we will simply have a sort of up or down, yay or nay vote. Did the contractor make a good faith effort towards meeting their contractual goals? And so just to reiterate, the standard that you all are going to apply here is, did the contractor make a reasonable good faith effort to meet their contractual goals? So a key difference here is that in a pre-construction good faith effort, we just are addressing what the contractor said they were going to do when they submitted their bid information. Here in a post-construction, WC Construction has, when they sign their contract, they have committed to achieving those specific goals and are bound to do that. And so really what we're looking at is, did they do everything reasonably possible to meet those goals? So just to go over the goals for this project. So the contractual goals, what's in WC's contract for this project, was 15% and 7%. This project was not a relatively expensive one. I think the total amount that was spent for this project was about $115,000. But the goals for this project were 15 and 7, and WC Construction came in at 0% and 12%. And actually, just to give you some additional context, so on their affidavit E, which is what they submit after the project is awarded, they said that they would pay PCM Construction $17,000. PCM Construction is a Hispanic-owned firm. The work that they were supposed to do for them was $17,400, and then they would pay Dunlap $7,825. Dunlap is a W-owned firm. In the final, when I get all of the affidavit Fs and I do my calculations, and they submit a final affidavit of payment, which basically lets me know how much they've paid MWE subcontractors throughout the entirety of the project. They put Dunlap first, and they ended up paying them more money than what they originally anticipated. And then they included a different firm that did the concrete work. This firm is a minority-owned business, but they are not Hub certified. I'm about to give you some background information around, sort of why this is the way it is. This was sent a few weeks ago. I had to follow up with WC Construction because the project was closing, and I needed them to submit their final affidavit of payment. And I noticed I had to request their post-construction good faith effort, which is essentially them providing me with an explanation for why the goals came in where they came in. They sent this to me on 9/3. And this is what they said. They said that they did not meet the original goal because the subcontractor who they had originally contracted with, that was an MWBE pulled out of the project because their equipment was broken into on Sprague Street. And they felt that the equipment was worth more than the subcontract itself. So they no longer wanted to do the job. And then he attached the correspondence. But and they said also we did replace him with a minority company. They just aren't state certified. So this is not actually the first time I had heard about this. When this issue originally happened, I was notified, and they actually reached out to Taisha. And then because construction and repair is my area of responsibility, I sort of took over with kind of facilitating the process. So in December of 2019, William Cockrum, who is the owner of WC Construction, reached out to Taisha and basically made her aware that the concrete sub that they had on this project, which was an MWBE, PCM Construction has elected to forfeit breach their contract for this project due to the reasoning that I'm going to show you in a minute, which basically is because of vandalism on their equipment and not wanting to follow the grades that they gave them. And then they said, with that being said, we have already been in communication with another sub who is an MBE but not certified, and he wanted to see how we needed to handle this moving forward. Which, this is what contractors are supposed to do. Sometimes we get situations where contractors just make a decision to switch up who they have said that they're the subcontractors, and they don't notify our office, and we don't find out until the project's ready to close. So this was the right decision. They also included the correspondence that they had previously before they sent that previous email to us. So what happened was, this is Kayla Feltz. She works for PCM Construction. She sent an email to William that morning, where basically saying that there are some issues related to the job. She said that, for starters, they're displeased to say that their $70,000 piece of equipment has been vandalized and that the project itself isn't worth half that. Also, in regards to the bad slopes, we are not designers and should not be responsible for figuring this out. We have already spent 2 days moving dirt for no reason because nobody could figure it out. So at this point, we need you to remove any grading from our contract and have someone else do it. Once you're ready for us, we will come back and complete the concrete pours in our contract. We are not going to spend any more time trying to figure out the slopes. If you have any questions or concerns, you can, of course, call Juan directly to discuss. And then William responded and said, "Good morning, Kayla." Essentially, that he didn't believe it's as complicated as the owner. Juan is the owner of PCM Construction. And then he said that Juan was informed in the pre-construction meeting that the owners, clearly to do what he needed to do to protect his equipment from the risk of vandalism and theft in the area. And he said that there's no one to blame for this issue. It just happened and could happen on any job site for that matter. As it relates to the actual work Juan asked for, asked for one of us to meet him on site to show him exactly what he needed to do per our conversation yesterday. Augustin, the project manager, showed him where to pull his points. So we will have 18 inches of excavation across the pad this morning as requested. I understand Juan refused to do this and said he was wasting his time here. With that said, that is fine. Unfortunately, we cannot just simply remove the grading from your contract since we had a budget established for this work. Our expectation is for you guys to do the complete job, grading concrete and stone, etc., or not. Please provide confirmation if your intent is to forfeit/breach the project so I can inform the MWB office of this intent and proceed at getting another sub to complete, please. Please let me know something by the end of the day, please, since time is of the essence. And so she responded to that and said they took every precaution to protect the equipment. Other than removing the equipment from the site, we feel firmly that there is an issue with slopes that should not be our responsibility to fix. If you are unable to remove the grading from our contract, then we choose to forfeit the project at this time. It's unfortunate that it's come to this, but that's the decision. So, after they reached out to Taisha, Taisha instructed me to provide them with the instructions for filling out the MWB replacement form. They followed those instructions, but at the time they were not able to put the replacement firm on the form because they had not solidified who the firm was, and and they asked me about. They asked me about, they asked Taisha about what would happen if they used a non-hub certified firm. And Taisha said, we strongly encourage you to utilize the hub firms to ensure the contractual percentages are met or exceeded. Should they not be met, you may be subject to a good faith effort at the end of the project, in which our MWB advisory committee will review. So that's just her saying that that's our policy. And then I asked them specifically, do you plan on replacing PCM with another MWBE firm? If so, their information must be recorded on the form and they must sign it, because when they sent it to me, they did not have a additional firm. And they said they were trying. And then they said, as we mentioned previously, we only have one other sub currently familiar with this project that can keep us on schedule, but they're not certified. And so additionally, PCM Construction made the decision to send me directly a letter just giving additional context for why they chose to forfeit the project, their portion of the subcontract. And so I won't read the entire thing, but essentially they indicated that they were told at the pre-construction meeting to be cautious of leaving their keys in the ignitions of their equipment for fear that someone might steal the equipment, but they were not warned that the area was so bad that our motor would be cut out and stolen, which is what happened to their piece of equipment. The equipment that has been vandalized is worth twice what their contract is for the project. And they said, had they known that such a problem, that the area had such a problem to the extent with vandalism, they wouldn't have agreed to the project. Or they would have added the additional cost for them to mobilize every day and not leave their equipment on site. And they talked about how the site requires extensive grading, and they had spent 2 days moving around dirt because the slopes were so poor. And and no one was able to figure out what to do to fix it. They go on to say that they requested that it was removed, that it be removed, and William said no. Essentially, they chose to remove themselves from the project for those two reasons. That's really the extent of that letter. So that's the information that I have relative to this project. That is our sort of some contributory reasons why WC Construction came in at the goals at the level that they did. Are there any questions for me? I know that was a lot of information.
Thanks for the information, Alex. Since this is dating back to 2019 when they were looking at to replace the other group, if the other group had started to seek getting on the hub list or the vendor list, would they have had enough time to do that to then be considered an M minority firm by our standards by the end of the project?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So there was ample time, right? So if WC Construction knew that the hub certified firms were required in order to go towards the MWB goals in the project, when they knew that they were going to use this subcontractor, they had at least 6 months to be able to, and it may not have been 6, and even if it's 4. They had time to be able to assist or refer that subcontractor to our office so that we could assist them with becoming hub certified, and they chose to not do that. And I think that just to that, in that same vein, that's not really something that I would say they would not have known they could do, because they knew enough that they had to contact our office about the replacement piece. And I even asked them, and I didn't include this screenshot, but I asked them to keep me abreast of what was happening. And I actually never really knew that they definitively decided to go with that firm, but that they indicated that they were only familiar with one. There was only one other subcontractor that was familiar with the project that could keep them on schedule. So to answer your question, yes, they had time to get that firm to be hub certified.
Alex, if I'm not mistaken, was this project bid after the change in policy where we require firms to be hub certified at the time that the bid is submitted?
Do you know when that policy change happened?
This project was bid in 2019, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So at the time that bids were due, the firms had to be hub certified
at the time.
Correct.
Okay.
If that answers your question, Leah. I hope it adds additional context.
Will you repeat that? Sorry, all my dogs were starting to bark.
So
sorry.
At the time that the bid was submitted for this project, bidders had to be hub certified at the time that the bid was submitted. And so there was a point in time where our program allowed firms, so long as they were hub certified by the completion of the project, to allow those firms to contribute to the MWBE participation goals. But when this project was bid out, they had to be hub certified at the time that bids were submitted.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm unable to get them on the phone. I'm going to try emailing them. You could just bear with me for a few more minutes.
Alex, while we're in this pause, how many organizations are signed up for tomorrow's webinar? For people?
So Jakira is in, like, has that sign up information. I think the last time she's 27.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Alex, do you have any additional contact information for WC? I contacted Chris Huber, but I was unable to reach him.
not send you Williams' email as well?
I did. I emailed both of them as well as calling. Do you have any additional?
No.
Okay, thank you.
They also did not, when asked to confirm if they were attending, they did not respond.
Okay. So being that I've attempted to contact them several times and they haven't responded to the initial email that Alex sent or the follow-up email that I sent about 5 minutes ago, I want to get a feel from the committee if you all are okay with moving on and not receiving that additional context from WC Construction. There isn't a quorum to take a vote on whether or not we should move forward, but I think they were given the opportunity to join the meeting to provide context, but without confirming or responding to telephone calls. I think
This is Steven. I mean, I think I have enough information from what Alex provided us.
Okay.
But since we don't have a quorum present anyway, I think we'll have to either wait till the next meeting or vote via email circulation anyway, right?
Yes, Alex will send an email because there is a quorum present, so you all can vote either that they didn't demonstrate a good effort to establish those. So yes to your question.
Any input from anybody else? I guess the two other committee members still here.
I mean, I would love to hear from them, and knowing that we don't have quorum anyway.
Couldn't hear you, Lee. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I would love to hear an explanation from them or discussion. Is that better?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So I would love to hear from them, but I also realize that time is of the essence, and then with all the rules and regulations that we have, but not having quorum, I guess we have to do it by email.
Correct.
Anyway, and it's such a sticky situation. It bothers me a little bit about the having to be on the hub list or on the vendor list before they can be utilized before the project. And of course, that always gets into a sticky thing. I love that they attempted to accomplish that, but when are the rules, you know? So it is it is a sticky situation.
I think with the requiring firms to be hub certified at the time that the bid is submitted, allows us to truly determine which category those firms fall in. And because I think you'll get into a situation where if a firm considers themselves as a WBE, but really they're a MBE, that can cause a lot of issues down the road. So I think that's definitely why that policy was put into place or was enhanced. So that way we know what goals, when the goals were established, if the contractor really met the goals at the beginning of the project.
Right. And I do appreciate them trying.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with our acting president or leader. I forgot, what's his name?
Chair.
Chair. No, Stephen. Yeah, I was trying to think his name. Well, I agree. I've heard enough, but I understand we have to continue through email, so I'll be looking forward to that.
And like I said, this recording will be provided to the committee members who aren't present so that they can receive the same information you all received.
Yeah.
Great. Well, being that we cannot actually take any action on this at this point, and this was our last agenda item, is there any open discussion anybody wants to have? And if not, then do we have a motion to adjourn? We don't need a quorum to vote on that.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Leah, will you second it?
I'll second it, sure.
And then I'm the only other committee member present, so I will say I'm in favor, and we can be adjourned.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.